history of crime detection has produced no more famous name than that of Sexton Blake. We present William Franklyn as Sexton Blake, with David Gregory as his assistant tinker and Heather Chasen as his secretary, Paula Dane, in a series of case histories by Donald Stuart. Today's episode is called The Vampire Moon.
That was wonderful, Mr. Blake. I adore Chinese food.
The amazing thing to me is where you put all this food.
It's consumed by the amount of energy I have to put into my job.
That's debatable, but I might argue.
You needn't be so smug. You ate just as much as I did.
I don't have to consider my figure.
And what's wrong with my figure?
Just a slight suspicion of a midriff bulge, perhaps.
What? There is not.
I'm only pulling a leg, Paula. We'd better be getting back to Berkeley Square. I'll get the bill.
Who's that man over there?
Where?
By that pillar. Just about to light a cigarette.
I don't know. I've never seen him before. Why?
But he keeps looking over here, as if he knew you.
You're probably the attraction.
No. He's getting up. I believe he's coming over.
Looks as if you're right.
What's the matter with him? Is he drunk?
He's either drunk or ill. Oh, God, he's really in a bad way. Stay there, Paula. Now, take it easy, old man. Yeah. Let me help you out.
I can't do any good. It's the vampire moon. Got to tell.
What has happened, please? A poor gentleman is ill.
Are you the manager?
Yes, I am the proprietor, Villa Chengli.
Tell these people to keep back.
Keep back, please. There has been illness.
Mr. Blake, was it a heart attack?
I don't think so.
Is he very bad?
He's dead.
You must make mistake.
Not this sort of mistake. Get a doctor as quickly as possible. While you're about it, the police.
The police?
Yes. This man was poisoned.
You're absolutely certain it was poison, Blake?
There's not the slightest doubt, Sir Francis. My secretary picked up the cigarette he was smoking when he fell. We analyzed it in the lab.
And what was the poison?
Preparation of pure nicotine, quick and deadly.
You didn't know David Grant, did you?
No. I gather, Sir Francis, he was one of your boys in intelligence.
Quite the most brilliant. That's why I'm here, Blake. I want you to take over.
Oh, now, just a minute. Take over what?
Whatever it was that Grant was up to.
Don't you know?
It sounds silly, doesn't it? You'd understand better if you'd known Grant. He broke all the rules, but he got results.
A lone wolf, eh?
Very much so. He hated turning in reports. What he liked was to present the job complete, all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted.
I don't think I'd have gone on rather well with him. Anyway, you haven't any idea what he was doing.
I'll tell you all I know, but it's precious little. He came in to see me one day about 2 months ago. He'd just come back from Hong Kong.
Hong Kong?
And he's murdered in a Chinese restaurant. Yes, there may be something in that. He asked me to give him a kind of roving commission. He said he was on to something very big. He said that for over a year he'd been picking up a whisper here and a rumor there, and now the thing was beginning to gel.
He didn't give you any hint as to what this thing was?
I asked him point blank, naturally, but he wouldn't tell me. If it had been anybody else, I'd have refused, but I knew my Grant. So I agreed to what he asked.
And?
I neither saw nor heard from him again until I was told of his death.
Those last few words of his, the vampire moon, do they ring any bells?
No, nothing at all.
He made a tremendous effort to get the words out at all. They meant something to him. Something of supreme importance.
Yes, I think so, too. Blake, will you find out what Grant was working on?
That's a bit of a tall order, Sir Francis.
You can have all the help we can give you.
Which doesn't really amount to much at the moment, does it? You can't even tell me where Grant was during those 2 months.
Oh, I know the difficulty. That's why I've come to you.
There's flattery and flattery. What was the assignment in Hong Kong?
Well, you've heard of the Triad Societies of China?
Yes, founded in the 17th century, and still very much in existence. In many ways, the Triad Societies are rather like the Mafia, aren't they?
Yes. Well, one of these societies was operating in Hong Kong. It was responsible for the trouble there, and Grant's job was to ferret out the leaders.
He succeeded?
Yes. As a result, we were able to put a stop to many of their activities. But I don't think this was the big thing he'd stumbled on.
If only we knew what he meant by the vampire moon.
Will you take on the job of finding out?
I'll do what I can. Let me have all the dope you've got on Grant, will you? Where he lived, a list of his friends, everything you can rake up.
I'll send it round by special messenger. You'll let me know if you get onto anything.
Only if it's something definite. Goodbye, Sir Francis. You can rely on me to do my best.
Thanks, Blake. I'm very grateful. Goodbye. And don't forget, anything you want, let me know.
Paula, when you see Sir Francis, will you come in?
Yes, Mr. Blake.
This is Sexton Blake speaking. Charlie? Charlie Quee. Long time no see. How's that den of iniquity going? Yes, those days are over, aren't they? I want to see you, Charlie. Yes, I know. That'll do fine. I'll be there.
Well, are we working for British intelligence?
Apparently. We're going to have a shot at discovering what Grant meant by the vampire moon. Paula, Grant lit that cigarette just before he got up to come over to our table, didn't he?
Yes, he opened a new packet.
You're quite sure it was a new packet?
Oh, quite. I was watching him because he kept looking over at our table.
Can you remember if he left the cigarettes on the table?
Yes, he did. He left the packet beside his plate.
Well, it wasn't there after he died. I looked.
Well, somebody in the restaurant must have picked it up.
I'm sure they did, and somebody who knew what they were about. That cigarette wasn't the only one in the packet loaded with pure nicotine. You can bet your last pair of nylons on that.
Why was he coming over to see you, Mr. Blake?
I think he knew he was in danger.
In a public restaurant like the Golden Lotus.
Well, he was right, wasn't he? There's a strong smell of joss sticks about this, Paula. That's why Charlie Quee may be useful.
He's a new one on me.
Well, he runs a kind of discotheque near the river at Rotherhithe. And he's an authority on China, the secret inner China that few people know anything about. How he gets his information, I have no idea. Even if he knows anything about this business, he may refuse to talk.
We have always been good friends, Mr. Blake. We do not meet much, but we stay very good friends a long time.
Quite a while now, isn't it, Charlie?
I help you sometimes, you help me sometimes, huh?
That's right.
But this that you tell me, I cannot help you.
Meaning cannot or will not?
What are words? Sometimes they mean what you wish them to mean. Is that not so, Mr. Blake?
At least you told me one thing, Charlie. Whatever David Grant stumbled on is of Chinese origin.
Perhaps you endow me with knowledge of which I am ignorant.
I doubt it. You've always been a bit of a dark horse, Charlie, university education, and yet you settled down on a joint like this.
It has been said that a wise man carries his own surroundings in his mind.
What else do you carry there? The secret of the vampire moon?
If you would be a wise man, Mr. Blake, you will forget that you ever had any mention of the vampire moon.
We're getting somewhere, aren't we? You do know what Grant meant by the vampire moon.
Mr. Grant was perhaps a foolish man.
There's nothing foolish in being murdered, Charlie.
There is more wisdom in remaining alive.
Do you know the Golden Lotus?
I have been there, yes.
Do you know Lai Chen-Yi?
Yes, I know Mr. Lai Chen-Yi. He is the proprietor of the Golden Lotus.
Listen, Charlie, I came to see you tonight because in the past you've always been helpful. Now stop hedging and come clean.
China is vast and inscrutable. Does anyone know what goes on inside? The communist government exercises a stranglehold on the Chinese people.
You don't like the present regime.
Does the fact that I am entitled to wear the red coral ball answer your question?
It answers, too. That Charlie Quee is not your real name, and that the vampire moon has nothing to do with communist China.
Do not try to answer any more, Mr. Blake. In friendship, I offer you this advice. Do not go further in this matter. There is much danger for you. If you are wise, you will heed what I say.
A threat?
A warning.
Keep out of our back garden, eh? Can't be done, Charlie.
It is regrettable. But perhaps Mr. Lai Chen-Yi can persuade you it would be considerably wiser.
Good morning, Paula. You got any message from the governor?
Isn't he in?
Well, he hasn't been home all night. I didn't get back until quite late.
He was going to Rotherhithe.
Rotherhithe?
To see somebody called Charlie Quee.
Oh, I've heard the governor mention him.
Well, that's where he was going. Quee runs a discotheque.
Oh, to do with this Grant case, I suppose?
Yes. You played back the tape recording of the interview with Sir Francis Mills, did you?
As soon as I came in. It's a good idea the governor's recording all the interviews. It saves a lot of time explaining.
I hope Mr. Blake's all right. He nearly always gets a message back if he's held up or going anywhere.
If he was onto something, he might not have had time. I don't want to start anything that might muck up what he's trying to do.
I hate these jobs for Sir Francis. They're tricky and dangerous. I saw what happened to that man Grant.
The governor can take care of himself.
There's always a first time. Mr. Sexton Blake's resident... Oh, it's you, Mr. Blake. Well, yes, we were a bit. Oh, I see. You don't know when? I'll tell him. All right. Goodbye. You're to cancel the appointment with the assistant commissioner.
That's the danger code.
I know. It means he's in trouble.
What else did he say?
That he was following up a line and didn't know when he'd be back. That was for the benefit of whoever was with him. The last bit was the real message.
I'll go along to this place at Quees. Perhaps I can pick up something there.
Well, we don't even know if he got there, do we?
Well, it makes a kick-off anyway.
Well, I'm going to have lunch at the Golden Lotus.
How can you think of food when the governor...
Oh, don't be so silly. That's where Grant was murdered, wasn't it?
Lai Chen Yi, of course.
If Lai Chen Yi knows anything, I shall stick to him like...
Don't say grim death, Paul. It could be bad luck.
Good morning, Mr. Blake. I trust that you feel no ill effects from the injection.
I have felt better.
Any slight nausea will soon pass away. Lai Chen Yi is not used to the syringe.
He prefers poisoned cigarettes, no doubt. Who are you?
I am Dr. Ho Sing Chung. I would have introduced myself last night, but you are in no condition. A fact which I regret.
Is that a watermill I can hear?
Yes, this is a mill house. We are in the heart of the English countryside.
How delightful. You're going to keep me here trussed up like a chicken for long.
You should be thankful, Mr. Blake. It was only at the expressed wish of Charlie Quee that you are still alive.
He's very thoughtful. What happens next?
For the present, you will remain as you are.
Nobody's going to miss me, of course.
That has been foreseen. Shortly, you will telephone your secretary. You will say what you are told.
Supposing I say what I like.
It would be regrettable if the wish of Charlie Quee could not be granted.
I agree with you there. Perhaps you'll tell me why I've been brought here at all.
You might endanger a project that is nearing completion.
The Vampire Moon.
Exactly, Mr. Blake. The Vampire Moon.
All very hush-hush and top secret, even to the Chinese government.
It is known only to the Brotherhood of the Red Coral Ball.
Which denotes the rank of Mandarin. Yes, I'm beginning to get a vague idea of what you're aiming at.
China is the oldest civilization to have survived into this day and age, Mr. Blake, on its classical foundations. For 16 years, it has been ruled by a communist government. The rule of emperors lasted for over 2,000 years.
And you believe it's time they had another go, eh?
As a beginning. Only as a beginning. Now, but it is time for you to telephone. Send for. Bring the telephone and plug it in.
How does the Vampire Moon come into it?
That you will know very soon, Mr. Blake. In spite of our friend Quee, I regret you will have to die.
I see you are a realist, Dr. Sing Chung.
The Vampire Moon shall claim its first victim. You, Mr. Blake.
Mr. Sexton Blake's residence. This is Paula Dane. Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm out of breath. I heard the phone ringing as I came out of the lift, and I ran for it. Oh, yes. Look, Nichols, do you know the Golden Lotus restaurant? That's right. The proprietor's a Chinaman called Lai Chen Yi. Middle-aged, thin, dresses immaculately, striped trousers a lot, typical city gent. I want a watch kept on him, day and night. I want to know where he goes, who he sees, all about him. Got that? Yes. Report to Berkeley Square. Right. And thanks.
Any luck, Paula?
No, I've only just got back. That was Nichols on the phone. I've arranged for him to tail Lai Chen Yi day and night. Well, how did you get on?
I saw Charlie Quee. He says that the governor never turned up last night.
That could be true. They could have got Mr. Blake on the way to Rotherhithe.
How did they know where he was going? I don't trust that chap Quee.
Did Mr. Blake take the car?
No. Probably thought he'd be a bit conspicuous in that district. Look here, Paula. There's a whole bunch of stuff come round for Sir Francis Mills on Grant. Do you think there's anything in that could help?
Oh, well, let's have a look at it. I can't do anything else for the moment.
Here it is, in this file.
This is a sort of security check-up on him. Almost a life history.
He had a flat in Kensington. Would that be any good?
Intelligence people went through that with a microscope. They wouldn't have missed anything important.
He doesn't seem to have many friends. Not the James Bond type. Here's his passport. He hasn't been out of England for over 2 months.
That indicates this vampire moon business is centered in this country. Hello? Grant had a girlfriend.
Well, let me see. Jill Conway, 16 Albany Mansions, Kensington. Now, she might be worth a visit. Grant could have dropped her some hint on what he was on to.
Oh, I doubt it. But I suppose it's worth trying. Bank statement, that's no good to us. Well, that's about all.
The only thing possible out of this lot is the girlfriend. I'll go round and see Jill Conway. Now, keep your fingers crossed.
I wish I could help you, Mr. Tinker, but David never talked about his work. I always thought he was a journalist. I'd no idea that...
I'm sorry to have to bother you just now, Miss Conway, but...
It's all right. I don't mind.
When did you last see him, Miss Conway?
4 days ago. He rang and asked me if I'd like to go out to dinner. And he took me to that place where it happened.
The Golden Lotus?
Yes. He apologized for taking me there because he knew I wasn't very fond of Chinese food.
Did he give you any reason for taking you there if he knew you didn't like Chinese food?
He said it was something to do with an article he was writing. That was the last time I saw it.
Can you remember what you talked about?
Oh, he was in very good form, laughing and joking. And I was glad because for a long time, whenever I'd seen him, he'd been sort of not there, if you know what I mean.
As if he had something on his mind?
Yes.
Did he say anything? Anything about the Golden Lotus or the owner, Lai Chen-Yi? It might not even seem important to you.
No,
but...
nothing. Oh, he made a joke about a stout elderly Chinaman at one of the tables.
What did he say?
Well, something about, you'd never think he'd be fond of flowers, would you? And he laughed, and I said I didn't think it was very funny. And David said, you would if you knew the sort of flowers I mean.
He knew this man?
They didn't seem to. They scarcely even looked at each other.
What was he like, the stout Chinaman?
I didn't take much notice of him. Oh, he had very thick spectacles. That's really all I remember.
I wonder what that joke was about the flowers.
David was like that. He'd often say things that you couldn't see any point to. We were going down to the country this weekend.
Where?
I don't know. He was going to pick me up here.
Please don't cry.
I'm awfully sorry. I'm sorry. You better go.
I left her sobbing her heart out, poor kid. It doesn't seem to have got us very far, Paula.
Well, we didn't know about the stout Chinaman before, did we? Well, that's something. Now, what could Grant have meant about the flowers?
She said he was often coming out with things like that, with no point to them.
They may not have had any point for her. They probably did for him.
Oh, it's all very well talking. It's not getting us any nearer finding a governor.
Oh, don't you think I'm worried, too?
Sorry, Paula.
No, it's my fault. I shouldn't have been so snappy. Now, listen. They were going down to the country for the weekend, you said. Grant was joking about this Chinaman being fond of flowers. Now, does that make sense?
You mean flowers and the country go together?
Yes.
But we've no idea what part of the country.
Oh, maddening, isn't it? I feel so helpless.
Perhaps he ought to tell Sir Francis Mills what's happening.
Oh, I don't think Mr. Blake would like that. In any case, what could Sir Francis do? He doesn't know any more than we do. Now, let's hope that Nichols will come up with... Mr. Sexton Blake's residence? Oh, yes. Just a minute, he's here. It's Jill Conway.
Yes, Miss Conway? Yes? Yes, it could be. Yes, thanks very much for ringing up. Yeah. Yes, I will. Yes, goodbye.
Well, what did she say?
She's just remembered that when Grant suggested going down to the country, he mentioned an old pub and a mill.
A mill? Well, that might help. What kind of mill?
Oh, he didn't say.
Or the name of the pub?
No, just a pub. Oh. There are thousands of pubs, but not so many mills.
Enough to make it difficult, particularly when we don't know what kind of mill.
There's a book in the Governor's Library on English villages. We might get an idea from that.
Yes, I suppose we can try. But no, wait a minute. This wasn't going to be just an ordinary weekend. Grant was going to the country for a purpose.
That's pretty certain. He was taking Jill Conway as a cover.
Which means there are probably Chinese living in this place, wherever it is.
So we note down the places with a mill and then phone the local police and find out if there are any Chinese in the district.
That's right. And if we can spot a place with a mill and Chinese, we've got it.
Paula, that's a brainwave. It's a long shot, but let's get phoning.
Put down that tray, 10-4, and then go. Hope the sound of the water wheel did not disturb you during the night, Mr. Blake.
That's very considerate of you, Doctor.
No doubt you are ready for your breakfast. I'll loosen your wrists sufficiently for you to eat.
Condemned man ate a hearty breakfast, eh?
We have a saying in China, Mr. Blake, that to the wise man all experience is wisdom.
Confucius or Mao Zedong?
Neither, Mr. Blake. It originated in the Manchu dynasty of China in 1644.
An old saying, in fact. There's a lot of truth in these old sayings, you know. Never count your chickens before they're hatched. It's quite a good one.
I fear you are allowing a false optimism to instill you with cheerfulness, Mr. Blake. You will feel differently when you have seen what I am soon going to show you, Mr. Blake.
The Vampire Moon.
I'm awaiting a visit from Lai Chen-yi.
Is he part of the conducted tour?
And Mr. Blake, you are either a very brave man or a very foolish one. Let me assure you...
Did you know the late Prince Wu Ling, Doctor?
I was not personally acquainted with that illustrious personage.
Wu Ling was an old protagonist of mine. On several occasions he succeeded in getting me into a similar position to this. But he's dead, and I'm still alive.
That is something that will be rectified in a few hours, Mr. Blake.
That was a delusion that Wu Ling also suffered from.
Are you there, Doctor?
Yes, Mr. Lai Chen-yi. Yes, I am here.
I am sorry to be late. I had trouble.
Trouble?
A man was following me. I had to elude him.
What do you know about this man, Mr. Blake?
Well, nothing at all. I mean, should I?
He was watching the Golden Lotus. When I left the restaurant, he followed me.
If you are relying upon this man, Mr. Blake...
I believe you're getting rattled.
This man cannot help you. I succeeded in evading him.
You're quite sure?
Would I be here if I were not sure?
He must be furious at losing you. How did you give him the slip?
That does not matter. Can we go up to your study, Doctor? It is important that I speak with you.
We'll go at once. Senfu will stay with you while you finish your breakfast, Mr. Blake, and retie your hands.
Oh, don't let me put you to any trouble.
We shall return later to take you to the Vampire Moon.
The old mill house is up at the top of Friars Lane, sir. Big place. You can't miss it.
There's a Chinese chap living there, isn't there, landlord?
That's right, sir. Doctor something or other. They're all Chinese up there.
We found it, Tinker.
We found the place that Grant was probably going to bring Miss Conway, but we don't know that the governor's there. Would you recognise that Chinaman if you saw him? The one with the strong spectacles, Miss Conway?
Oh, yes, I'm sure I should.
Oh, excuse me, sir, but this doctor feller wears glasses. Mighty powerful ones, too.
Yes, that proves we're right, doesn't it? Look, are there a lot of Chinese at the old mill house?
Oh, good few, miss. Though they mostly look alike to me. It's something to do with what they're growing up there, I expect.
Growing there? What's that?
Oh, I don't know, sir. But there's a mighty big kind of glass house they put up. Oh, excuse me, sir, I'm wanted over in the other bar.
That fits in with the flowers, Paula. We've just got to hope that this is where they did bring the governor.
I should think it's more than likely. Now, what are we going to do next?
We can't do very much until it gets dark. Then we can go and take a deco at this place. Miss Conway can wait here.
Oh, I'm coming with you.
It could be dangerous.
I don't care. If these people kill David, I'm going to help.
All right, Miss Conway.
You'd better call me Jill.
No, of course. Now, look, we'll have to be careful. Don't forget that they know all three of us by sight.
And there's probably a pretty good lookout. That's why it's no good till it gets dark. Did you bring your little automatic, Paul?
In my handbag. What about you?
Yes, I got mine. But we haven't got something from Jill.
Oh, I wouldn't know how to use a gun, but David taught me a bit of karate.
That's fine. This mill house is a water mill, isn't it? Which means a river of some sort.
Yes, the creel. Why?
Well, it might be possible for me to get into the place by swimming up the river. That is, supposing the place is well guarded.
But we can't make any plans until we see what sort of place it is.
Well, it'll be a good hour before it's dark. We'll just have to be patient. What about another drink and some sandwiches?
I'll have a drink, but I couldn't eat anything.
That should go down in history. Landlord?
Come in, sir.
Same again, please, and could you rustle up some sandwiches? I'm hungry if nobody else is.
Along this path, Mr. Blake.
Nice to get a breath of fresh air after being shut up in that mill chamber. Very pleasant.
Make the most of it. You will not be able to enjoy it for long.
You really are a depressing chap, Lai Chen-yi.
Do you realize the seriousness of your situation, Mr. Blake?
Yes, but do you realize your own, Doctor?
Mine?
Your future prospects don't look too good to me.
You should be worrying about your own immediate prospects, Mr. Blake.
Please wait while I unlock this gate.
We far to go?
So this much way.
Surely this is a greenhouse.
That is our destination.
Exhibit 1, the Vampire Moon.
I trust that you will not be disappointed, Mr. Blake.
I should warn you, Mr. Blake, that although you have been freed in order to accompany us here, there's no chance of escape. I have many servants within call.
How lucky you are. Servants are practically impossible to get these days.
You are looking, Mr. Blake, at the result of my life's work. A culmination of years of research. There it is. A vampire moon.
the whole place, Paula. There isn't a break anywhere, and the main gate is guarded by 2 Chinese.
If we had some wire cutters, we could...
No good, even if we had. I bet they'd set off enough alarm bells to waken the dead.
What can we do then?
Now, see that culvert, Jill? Where the water gushes out?
Yes.
That must be the outlet for the part of the river that runs through the grounds.
Joining it to this part of the river?
I'm going through that culvert.
You'll never make it. He might, Joe. The water doesn't come up to the top. Well, what do we do?
Hang on here, but don't get spotted. Well, here goes.
I'll give Tinker 3 minutes start, and then I'm going after him.
Paula, you can't.
Oh, can't I? Just you watch me.
Not very impressive, Dr. Sing Chong. Collection of toadstools.
You speak with a voice of ignorance, Mr. Blake. The fungi which you see is a unique link between bacilli and fungi. It grows in and feeds on blood. The blood in dried form which supplies its present needs is animal blood. But its true affinity is human blood. The ripe spores absorbed through the skin or by way of the respiratory system grow and multiply swiftly. The spores are microscopic. In each of these specimens, there are many millions, enough to destroy the entire populations of, shall we say, Russia, America, Britain, or all 3.
You presumably have an antidote.
Once the spores have germinated, Mr. Blake, there is nothing that will stop the spread of the infection. Hence, as you see, we grow them in glass containers. But the spores can be prevented from germinating. A certain chemical in the form of a tasteless powder, taken in food shortly before the spores are disseminated, renders the bloodstream immune to their action. This powder will be distributed to the people of China in their normal food, and they will survive, as would anybody else we might wish to save.
I see. Nothing else will prevent the spores from germinating?
Only fire.
Fire destroys the spores and the parent fungi, Mr. Blake.
Presumably you'll have a further supply of these obscene growths, in case anything should happen to these.
No, Mr. Blake, there is no need. These are ample for our purpose, and the greatest care is adopted in their cultivation.
We have talked enough.
You have! If either of you move, I'll shoot.
Tinker!
Over there, Governor!
Don't be foolhardy. I have to blow this whistle on my
I warn you!
Be careful, the fungi!
He's fallen on that container. Tinker, quick! The door and shut it! Shut the door! It's airtight. It'll keep the spores from escaping.
But we can't leave those 2 in there, Governor.
We've got to. We daren't risk the spores of that infernal fungi getting out.
Here come the rest of those brutes. I've weaned a couple of them. Who else is that shooting? Good Lord, it's Paula.
Oh, are you all right, Mr. Blake?
Yes, I'm fine.
I think that's settled the bodyguards.
Well, thanks, both of you. Now we need petrol. Lots of petrol.
Petrol? What for?
We've got to burn the place down. It's the only way to exterminate the vampire moon.
You did a good job, Blake.
Thank you, Sir Francis.
You've got that chap, Quee, and from the papers we found at the mill house, we've rounded up the rest of the group. The Chinese embassy is falling over itself in gratitude, and so are the Russians. It must be the first time they've totally agreed about anything for years.
Most of the credit should go to Miss Dane and Tinker, Sir Francis.
Now, you all did a good job. If this Red Coral Ball group had got away with it, well... Why vampire moon, by the way?
Well, the fungi lived on blood, and they looked like full moons, round and white with a phosphorescent glow.
We'll never really know if the stuff worked. Nothing left of those 2 chaps, Sing Chung and Chen Ye, after the fire.
Only a few charred bones.
Was there anything you could do, Blake?
I doubt if it'll weigh on my conscience, Sir Francis.
I finished those reports, Mr. Blake. Oh, I've got a shocking cold.
If you will wander around the countryside in your knickers, Paula.
Mrs. Bardell is nearly ready with your supper, and I hope it chokes you.
What? What is it?
Mushrooms on toast.
That story in our Sexton Blake series was called The Vampire Moon and was written by Donald Stuart. William Franklyn with Sexton Blake, David Gregory, Tinker, and Heather Chasen, Paula.